you guys doing? My name is Samson. I am a filmmaker slash videographer, and for those of you who are new here to this channel, I mainly document my journey on becoming a full-time freelancer. So if that's of interest to you guys, if you guys are in the same road as me and making that transition from the 9 to 5 to a full-time be your own boss and doing what you love, then yeah, this is what this channel is all about. But today I am going to be going over how I edit my photos on Instagram. And so yeah, let's hop right back into it. Alright, so getting right into it, we're going to be editing my photo that I took of the lighthouse, a super awesome place in North Vancouver if you're ever in the area. I love North Vancouver. But yeah, getting right into it, we're just going to look at the exposure levels, and I'm pretty surprised that my exposure levels pretty on point right now. You can see that the clouds are, not overexposed, so we don't have to play too much around. If they are overexposed, I normally bring down the highlights, so I'll do that right now. Bring that a little bit down, as well as the shadows. I like to bring that up, and then maybe bump up the exposure ever so slightly. You don't want to really push anything out of the exposure limit for it to become overexposed. For example, if we push it all the way up, everything's blown out, right? And so we want to keep that in the middle, slightly above. I like to bump up the contrast just ever so slightly, maybe around 15 to 20, depending on your style. And so we'll push the blacks up and then pull the whites a little bit down. And then here we're going to be pushing up the texture ever so slightly. All these things you can play around with. I personally like to be super minimal with how I edit, just because it's, the photo itself is really what we should be admiring about. And so here, I like to play around with the temperature just because it gives a little bit more style. And so, normally people like to go a little bit warm. I personally like to go a little bit colder, on the colder side, just because that's how my Instagram page is laid out. I like to go for the colder side, but that's totally up to you, how you like to personalize, how you like to edit your photos. And so moving on to the tone curve, I like to do the S curve right here. So the reason why we do that is to bring up the highlights as well as bring down the shadows to get more clarity in the photo itself. And this is one thing that I picked up recently that I really enjoy, and I've been applying it to make it kind of my own style, is to bring up the blacks. And so what this does is, if you can see in the back, the trees right here especially, it'll get a little bit more grayed out, and that gives it a little bit more of a vintage look that I personally like. And so maybe around there, that's probably, I don't normally go a little bit high, but for me, for this photo personally, I kind of like it like that. Going into the hues, I like to give it a little bit more teal look, not too teal that it's just unreal. If you do notice that it's a little bit too saturated for your personal taste, I just bump that saturation down. And then here I'll edit the greens here depending on how I feel. I normally like the looks of my trees being more yellow orangey, just because it gives me that kind of fall look, which I personally like. And some people like the super green look, the more green, the more healthier the trees are. But personally, I like the more orangey look. So yeah, that's kind of how I go about that. Let me just play around here a little bit more. We don't want to go too hard on the color changing, because if you notice, the hand, the shadows of the hand are actually not being, it's actually becoming unnatural. And so that's the last thing that we want to do, is to make these photos unnatural looking, right? And of course, we just have fun with this, to be honest. Let's see. Ooh, okay. So this is the luminance scope, and so yeah, this kind of you can play around with it. This is kind of how I like to edit that. All right, I think I am happy with that. Let's move on to split toning. I don't really touch that. Normally, if we do this is just to get the cinematic look right. So highlights normally orange, bump that back down, and shadows normally the blue look, and bump that right down. So yeah, not too much detail. Sometimes if it's too noisy, I like to bump this up a little bit, but other than that, I don't really touch that. I want to go into effects here, and some people like vignetting, some people don't. Personally, I do really like vignetting, but you can go overboard with it, so you just want to be super subtle with it, maybe around that point right there. And yeah, I think that is it. I'm pretty happy with this photo. If we hit the slash button, we can see the before and after. So here we go, before and after, before and after. And if we hit Y, we can hit the before and after side by side. If we hit Shift Y, we can see it being split in the center. So yeah, that's pretty cool. All right, hope you guys enjoyed that video on how I edit my Instagram photos personally. And if you guys have any questions, or you guys want to give me any feedback, yeah, please leave a comment down below, and I'll be sure to read every single one of them. And yeah, hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Stay authentic.